Hey, welcome to the HVAC Guide live show. We are going to get started in just a second. Just getting a couple last minute things here started. Um, and let's get rolling.
Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down tonight. Only just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up now.
Hello. Welcome to the HVAC Guide live show where we talk about all things HVAC, giving you tips that I'd give to my own mom. We'll be answering some of your questions live. I'm flying solo tonight, guys. I'm excited. This is my deal, right? This is what we used to do every night, especially some of you that have been here for a while, been here before. And if you haven't seen our show before, I just want to say thank you for, joining us. That said, being that I'm flying solo tonight, I've got a jam-packed show. We will be answering your questions live. Sometimes we're joined by other pros in the chat. I've already seen a few. I saw Steve here. They might know answers to questions that I don't. Let's be honest, that's not hard to do. And finally, we have breakout segments where we go over funny clips, industry news, and goofy inventions. Before we get the show started with tonight's crazy story, I've got a crazy one for you. Let's take a moment to do a little bit of housekeeping. The first thing is, I know some of you have heard this a few times now. I'm going to say it again. The live show has a new home. If you haven't subscribed to the new home of our live show, meaning if you watch us on YouTube, we will not be streaming to the HVAC Guide live show much longer. We're moving everything. We're moving the live show to its own channel. It's called the HVAC Guide live show. We're still going to be doing this stuff. We're still going to be answering homeowners' questions. We're still going to be bringing on really cool guests, but we're moving everything to its own home. There's a bunch of reasons for that, but just know it's all good reasons. We're still going to be doing the same cool content on our main channel, the HVAC Guide for Homeowners channel, but the HVAC Guide live show will not be streaming to this channel much longer. Make sure you're subscribed to the HVAC Guide live show channel. That said, next week we will be joined by a really cool guest. He's one of the top, how do I want to say this? Gurus, one of the top folks that is leading the way with products and just all kinds of cool things that they are doing on the indoor air quality front. Okay. I think it's one thing to say you can install a product and make the air better, right? You can install a filter or a cleaner or a whatever. You can do all kinds of different things to the ductwork or the HVAC system or to the house envelope, the home envelope. You can do all kinds of things to affect the indoor air quality, but you won't actually know unless you know if it did anything, if it fixed the problem, right? You could say fix a hole in the ductwork and you think it's better, but you won't actually know it's better unless you do some tests, right? And so indoor air quality is one of those things that sometimes people have a false sense of, placebo effect, thinking, oh, my air's cleaner. Well, these folks have a product where they can actually prove that the air is good or bad. So excited about having him on our show next week. Make sure you're here live. Um, that said, last but not least, let's pay the bills tonight and thank the sponsor for our show. We've got a new sponsor, and a lot of a lot of guys will, come on our show. They'll ask questions like, what's your favorite thermostat? And the thermostat question has come up quite often over the years. And many of I've got some old ones that I've liked over the years, some of the ones that I've used for years. But there's one that I've talked about on this show before. I've had my eye on it for a while for a number of reasons. And they, when I started taking sponsors, we've got some other awesome sponsors. I know everybody says this. Oh, I won't talk about any products that I don't use myself, or I won't talk about any products that I don't believe in. And I've always taken that to heart. That's how we are here. I didn't want to line. I've had folks want to pay us money and be sponsored. They would want to be featured on our channel, and we would unfortunately have to tell them no because not to be ugly, but sometimes their product just wasn't up to snuff. The standards weren't high enough, right? Some of you heating and air guys know what I'm talking about when I talk about having high standards. And so, from the thermostat standpoint, I think that there's one that is kind of above many of the others out there, right? They're kind of, they're setting the standard, if you will, on a lot of different fronts. And so I've got it sitting here. They sent me a couple of them, and I'm going to be doing some videos. You can see it's still in the packaging. So we're going to be doing some of the videos, but thank you to Copeland and Scentsy. If you are not familiar with their products, I put a link in the description of the video. This is the Scentsy Touch 2. And I'll just say, I mean, they haven't given me any direction. They didn't say we want you to say this about it. But for me, I mean, for especially those customers that I'll just throw a few highlights for me that jump out about this. And again, they've sent me a couple of different thermostats, but the Touch 2, the first thing is whenever I had older customers, what was the biggest thing customers would, especially if they were an older crowd, maybe baby boomers or a little bit older than that, my parents' generation or older, they would always they would complain about the display. I think the Scentsy Touch 2 has one of the best displays, user-friendly displays for customers. And so we're going to be installing this actual thermostat in my house. We've also got the light, the Scentsy light we're going to be installing in my house. And we're going to be doing upcoming videos on that. A couple other highlights. I think another thing is if you spend the kind of money that some of these Wi-Fi thermostats cost, you want it to look like you spent the kind of money you did, right? Some of these brands come out with these thermostats that, they want all this money, but then it still kind of looks like, I don't know. And y'all remember the old Atari games that, when I was a kid, before Nintendo, there was Atari. Some of these thermostats look like Atari games to me. And so I think that the Touch 2 looks like, if you spent some money, you've got a good looking something, that looks like it's quality. And then the last thing I'll say is the price point. I don't want to throw any numbers out there, but I'll put a link in the description where you can go get one. And I think that the prices are compared to a lot of the other smart thermostats, Wi-Fi thermostats that are out there. It's very competitive, very fair pricing for a high quality product, in my opinion. So I'm going to put a link. Bear with me. I'm going to put it in the chat. I know the chat's blowing up. I'm going to say hello to you folks in the chat in just a second. But I wanted to, as you guys know, usually I have a cute little commercial that I'll play for our sponsor. I haven't made one for Copeland or Scentsy yet. So I will, let's see here. Here's the link to that thermostat. I just put that in the chat. So anyway, I will stop rambling now and jump to our chat. We don't get to do this as much anymore. Hey to Gary, I was laughing at your chat. Your comment popped up before I even got rolling, and I had a good chuckle out of that. Steve, good to see you, man. Let's see. Tech Junkie, good to see you, pal. Been a while since I've actually got to talk to all you guys. Arch, if you've never joined us on our show before, drop a comment, drop a question in the chat. And again, if I don't know the answer, I'll usually give you a good old opinion. My dad used to say opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one. Of course, he didn't say buttholes. Arch said, how about a link? I got your answers. I need answers today. Rub the TXV and the Genie will come out. I'm just looking at some of y'all's chats here. How much for the Mr. Miyagi thermostat? Yeah, I put a link there. You guys can go get it. Again, I think I'll be doing a video where we highlight a lot of the features. But we'll also be doing some other cool videos with where Copeland has sponsored, and I just appreciate their partnership so far. So let's see. Tech Junkie wants to know, what's everyone's favorite condenser coil cleaner? What's everyone's favorite condenser coil cleaner? What are y'all drinking out there? That's the real question. Steve says water. Dylan's a good buddy of mine, lives here locally. He says, I'm here for this water heater story. I'm super curious. All right, man, let me get to the story. Y'all are chomping at the bit tonight. So good to see you on here, Dylan. Dylan's a master plumber and probably, if not the best, definitely one of the best. Him and his whole family are very well known in our area for plumbing. Let me switch over here. Let me know if you guys cannot see this, and I'll just remove my fat face entirely, and you guys we'll make this full screen. But if you can see it, then we'll just keep my fat face up here with it. That said, it says an Aurora couple charged $13,000 to replace a water heater. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen a water heater pricing these days. Let's see. I'm just going to go. I know there's higher end ones. I know there's some that are good, some that are bad. Everybody's got their own opinion on those too, right? But if I just jump over to Home Depot, at my company, we always put in just the Home Depot Rheem water heaters, good or bad. You may or may not like them. But if we were just going to put in, I think that the story says it's a 40 gallon. So if we just click a 40 gallon here, I think these are gas ones. So we're looking at less than $1,000 each, right? Oh, no, there's one. This is a hybrid electric heat pump one. So this one's still less than $2,000. Okay. And I'm being generous there. Here's one getting closer to 2,000. And again, those are heat pump water heaters. So, I haven't seen any over $2,000. Now I know there's some tankless ones out there that can push more than that. I think, Dylan, you correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen a water heater ever, the most highest end water heater out there with all the bells and whistles. I've never seen one for over 5K. Never seen one for more than 5,000. So, if again, Dylan's pointing out some other brands, I'm just throwing rough numbers out there, right? I'm just throwing some rough stuff out there. Dylan confirms, never seen one over 5K. So back to our story here. So this company charged them 13 grand. Now I'm going to play both sides here. I have not read this story. I just saw the ad. I was like, that's a crazy story that we need to talk about that on our live show. Hear what you pros have to say. I know it's plumbing, but still a service-based company. A lot of you folks are either homeowners or you are pros that take care of some of these homeowners. I know Steve does some bigger stuff than that, commercial, industrial, whatever. But all in all, no matter where you fit in this puzzle, $13,000 for a water heater replacement is pretty steep. And again, I'll play devil's advocate and say, well, maybe there was more to it. Maybe there was more to the job than just replacing the water heater. I would dare say that unless it's, a 20,000 square foot mansion with, 10 bathrooms, I would dare say most homes that are, 3,000 square feet or less, you could probably plumb the entire home for much less than 13K. I know it's been a while since I've been in that realm, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's gotten close to that high, but things have gotten significantly higher. But even still, plumbing the entire house. So it says, I think that's her talking right there, and maybe we will come back and watch that video. But it says when Paula McMahon's water heater wasn't working, she panicked and decided to call a name she knew. She ended up with a new 40-gallon water heater bill for nearly $13,000 and not a lot of answers about why it cost so much. McMahon called Steve on Your Side. I think that's the reporter in the Aurora that does these stories. Let me pause this right in here so we can come back and watch this if we want to. After months of fighting with, I'm not going to say the company's name, you guys can see it. But McMahon said the technician came right over to her house when she called back in March and told Paula and her husband Murray that the unit needed to be replaced. The couple said the technician told them only one model would fit in the area where the previous water heater sat. Now, Dylan, again, could probably confirm this. That's sometimes the case, especially years ago. I don't remember how many years ago, but a handful of years ago, the government actually came out and said that the insulation, they've done it a couple times in my career, but they said the insulation needs to be thicker, that the water heaters themselves, to get a 40-gallon water heater that might used to have been 18 inches wide is now going to be 20 inches wide, if that makes sense. And so maybe that is true. Maybe there was only one water heater that would fit in that hole. Again, I'm trying to see both sides here. It's hard to see the side of just a swap out of a water heater for 13K, but I'm trying to remain somewhat neutral here. But they said only one would fit in there. Walked them through the job of using a tablet. He said the installation would cost nearly 13K. Now, here's the other thing. If he was up front, if he told them up front, hey, I'm going to charge you 13K, maybe, just maybe, he was trying to give them the price, the I don't want to do this job price, the I'm extremely busy, please call someone else price, right? And then they still, went with it. Maybe. I would maybe, though, say if he had his tablet out, he was working some magic and doing some of these sales tactics that we've talked about on our YouTube channel before. Who knows? McMahon said the technician assured her there was no model that would be cheaper. Of course not. We finally said, well, if you can't get another one, then I guess we'll have to get it and figure out what we're going to do to pay 13 grand. Ugh, I just don't even like that sentence. Get another opinion. Or, I mean, I don't know. But, 13 grand, man. I mean, I just think of all the other things you could buy with 13 grand, including, 6 or 7 or 10 water heaters. She then sent a text message to her daughter, who couldn't believe her ears when her mother told her the price. I was completely shocked. She said to her mother, she asked for the invoice. The bill didn't include a breakdown of the cost, but it did include a model number for a specific water heater. And she looked it up online, and it's probably, she said it's probably $1,800 to $2,200. So, it's almost $11,000 of labor, and it was a basic install. She said she tried reaching them on her mother's behalf. One person on the line told her they couldn't provide an itemized receipt. When a manager called her back, she tried to argue the charge, but said the manager disconnected the phone call. So I wonder if they're saying that the daughter got involved and they never did the work. I hope that's the case. But that does look like a brand new Bradford White water heater right there, right? That says Bradford White. And that is, I mean, it doesn't look like a heat pump. That's a gas water heater with a power venter on it. Ugh. I knew trying to make a payment on a $13,000 credit card with a 27% interest rate is going to be impossible for somebody on a fixed income to pay off, she said. Paul contacted consumer investigator Steve Stager. Steve, on your side, looked up the same water heater online and found similar prices. We reached out to this company to try to get a response about why the labor costs so much, and they issued the following statement. Ooh, they sent a statement. Uh, Said company has maintained high standards in service and customer interactions for more than 50 years. Our costs include more than just parts and labor. We have fully stocked trucks and on-demand warehouse, coordinated dispatch system, and other resources to ensure top-level home repair. We provide detailed descriptions of proposed work in advance. He is correct. They admitted that he gave them the price up front. That lady did have a right to say no. Again, I think they took advantage, but she also had the right to say, "You're crazy, get the heck out of my house." Work starts only with customer authorization. Our pricing is consistent for all, offering same day service, certified and licensed technicians, and extended hours without overtime charges. They have a long history of integrity and, as always, open to address customer concerns. Days after issuing the statement, they said the president of the company called her, apologized, and offered a full refund. She said she told him her parents didn't want the total amount refunded. They only wanted to pay what they felt was a fair price, $5,000, which, again, Dylan, tell me if I'm wrong, $5,000 would be a premium price. That would be a eating filet mignon price, probably, to install that water heater. I would argue, at least in our area, maybe Aurora is just a higher cost of living. But I would argue that in our area, most plumbers are going to probably charge maybe five, but probably around 4 to 4,500 for that same job. I'm just throwing that out there. But he said he agreed and refunded nearly $8,000. I'm sure he did. He still made $5,000 off the job. I will say that's very fair of the homeowners. I hate when I go to restaurants and you can tell that somebody in that restaurant is just looking for a free meal. Just drives me nuts. In fact, I've been in restaurants, you can ask my wife, where they've tried to give me something for free and it drives me nuts. I didn't ask for anything for free. I rarely even complain. I'm just the kind of guy that just won't come back. But if we're unhappy with something, I remember one time we were at a very well-known steakhouse. I won't say which one, but my wife's steak was very overdone. And I even told him, I was like, "Sir, we never complain, but this is obviously very well over, she asked for medium rare and this steak is well done." And so we sent it back and they tried to give us a free meal. And I said, "No way, no way. Unless you want this waiter to get $100 tip, I do not want a free meal." So they gave us a free dessert, which I said was fine. But anyway, let's see. This goes on to say what you should probably do in the future and so on. I will post a link to this article in the chat. I know some of you were chomping at the bit. I'm not going to continue through the rest of this article, because I want to get to you guys and your questions, but definitely a crazy story. $13,000 is definitely a steep price. Dylan said even less, so less than 4K for that same install. So yeah, let's see. So there's the link to the story if you guys want to take a look at that full story. Pretty crazy. Let me go back to our chat here. Let's see. Hughes, man, good to see you. In 2 weeks, This guy, if you haven't seen him on YouTube, they've got a really cool podcast. He's doing like I mean, Ryan, you're doing like 10 different things. And I'm excited to have him on our show, give a different perspective, and you guys can ask him questions as well. So he hosts the Misfits of HVAC. I listen to every episode, Ryan. I want you to know I like y'all's show a lot. I try to listen to some of the other ones, and I do. I listen to, a couple others, but a lot of the ones I just can't get with it. I like Adrian's stuff, but a few of the others it's just tough for me sometimes. I'll listen to it to hear what they're doing and what they've got going on, but anyway, definitely check him out. I'm trying to go back to where was I at? You guys have been chatting it up, so I'm way behind here. Gary says I have a wonderful Home Depot installed unit, 50-gallon gas, and is very quiet burner. No thundering when running, and $1,100 installed. Most of our installs were in that neighborhood, unless it was a heat pump water heater or one of these ones with a power venter or something. Most just a swap electric water heater or gas water heater, typical swap. I would say we were probably anywhere from 1,000, definitely less than 1,500 usually at my company. But again, I know everything's gone up, right? I mean, I sold my company 6 months ago, and even in the last 6 months, the inflation and all the stuff, I don't miss that. Let's see. You guys are talking about some of the cleaners. 3-bath house for 13K. Okay. So yeah, so full, yeah, so everything's just gotten so high. I remember when I first got in this trade, we would rough in when I worked for a plumbing company, we would rough in the plumbing for the entire house I remember doing them for like 3 grand, 3,500 bucks. That maybe I'm telling my age here. Uh let's see. Just going through your comments here. Bear with me. Catching up. Arch says if they're elderly people, my bet is they were being taken advantage of. My mother lives in a retirement community and they're constantly overcharging the elderly where she lives. It's really sad. I feel like those are the last people that we should be overcharging, right? Those are the people we should be maybe giving them a break. But yeah, why do you have two water heaters? Tech Junkie must be talking to somebody in the chat. California rates are not even that high, but yes, they should have said no. Yes, I agree. Sam says, do you install tankless water heater? Sam, are you asking me or somebody in the chat that question? At my company, we put in a few of them, but unless it was gas, I wouldn't do it. So we had customers that would call us and ask for an electric water heater. And unless they've come a long way, electric water heaters were problem childs. They would almost always have problems. Tech Junkie talking about the Daikin Fit. Arch talking about a product that does not exist, the Daikin Fit package unit. How about a link to your new channel? Let me grab that for you guys. Thank you for reminding me to do that. Give me just a second here. New channel coming at you right here. Gail says house was designed for 2 water heaters, handy if one goes out. We used to do, well, we've done a bunch of different things, but I always liked, so I worked for a company that would plumb them in series, not parallel, but plumb them in series. Now that would pose a problem sometimes depending on how it was plumbed in if one did fail, but you could take you could take 2 30-gallon water heaters, and because of the I forget the verbiage, but a 30-gallon is actually at the end of the day good for like 38 gallons when you consider the recovery rate, right? So you could put in 2 30-gallons plumbed in series, and actually at the end of the day get like almost 100 gallons of hot water before it ran out. In fact, we used to do that at an apartment complexes, and I don't remember the water ever running out unless one of them failed. So you know, pretty cool. Zelo, welcome to the show. I'm not sure I've seen your name before, so I apologize if you have commented before and I just don't remember you, but welcome. Rich people that have big accounts always get charged a premium where I work, but they also get first service right away for any problem. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's part of it. If you're willing to pay that premium and you want that type of service. I had a customer one time that told me that when folks would find out that her husband was a doctor, that their prices would go up, almost over, immediately. So she would always, I'm going to try to keep that a secret from service folks. And that's why she liked us, because I didn't care what his profession was. I was going to, treat them right if they treated me right. Arch says a friend installed 2 Ream tankless water heaters at his daughter's house and they're working great. Good stuff. Dylan says always plumb them in series. I worked with a guy that used to argue with me. He always wanted to do them parallel, and the problem that I saw with that is they've got to be, you have to plumb them almost perfectly symmetrical. Otherwise, one would run out, and then you would get this hot cold action. You'd be getting hot cold, hot cold. But if you plumb them in series, you should never have, the only reason you would never want to plumb them in series is if you have a water flow issue. But again, I had an apartment building that had 12 apartments, and we did, and these were just standard, water heaters that we would run down to Lowe's and grab 3/4 inlets, and it was still plenty of water pressure for that entire apartment building. I remember plumbing those in. They had like an 80-gallon water heater, and I was all back then. I was all by myself. I was their only maintenance guy. I was their maintenance plumber, HVAC, everything. And I remember running down there, and I was like, I'm not putting in another 80-gallon. I'm gonna put in a couple 40s and or 30s and plumb them in series. And again, never had an issue after that. Are you broadcasting this show on both of your channels? For now, yes. For now, I want to make sure that we're still providing to our audience, making sure you guys that are used to seeing us on the old channel are still seeing me. But again, not for long. Not for long. As soon as we get enough of a following, enough subscribers that YouTube is willing to, continue to show our content on the new channel, then everything will get moved over there. I'm really excited about all of that. We're doing some different things coming up as well. I also put my personal channel on there. We're doing some HVAC plus some other things on there, and just kind of living that YouTube life. Let's see. Mary Catherine. I used to go to school with a girl named Mary Catherine. I'm pretty sure her last name was right as well. We just had a new HVAC system in March. What's going to happen when they change the rules for gas in it for 25? So if you installed a 410A system, Mary, the not much is going to happen. You're not going to notice much of anything. It's just business as usual. That refrigerant will still be here for years to come. I would say as we get closer to the year 2032, I'm just guessing, then maybe this might be a different conversation. The AIM Act has 410A being phased down to 15% by the year 2036. And there are states that are already trying to yes, you are, Arch. You are on the new channel. He wants to know if he's on the new channel. It looks like you're on the chat for the new channel. But yeah, so not much is going to change for you, Mary. I would say again, in a decade or two, in a decade or so, maybe there might come points where the refrigerant's going to go up drastically. But even now, if you tried hard enough, I bet you could still, even today, get your hands on R12, a refrigerant that was phased out decades ago. Decades ago. Now you're gonna pay, but I wouldn't lose sleep on that, Mary. Um, wouldn't lose sleep on that at all. Shinobi One says you should post cross links to the new channel on both your live videos as well as your main page. It's on my main page, and I did just share it in the chat here. I should probably put it in the description of the video moving forward. That's a good point. Um, but if you go to my main channel page, in fact, if you go to any of the channels and scroll to the bottom, you see the other channels. So they're they're all serving a different audience. It's allowing me to, make sure that we're serving the needs of all of our audience, but also do the videos. Sometimes I want to do videos that help folks, but I also sometimes want to do videos that are fun. And that was not always possible with the original channel without hurting our numbers or our algorithm. So anyway, Arch says there's two of us commenting on the new channel. I see that. Yep. I can see your chat over here. So, I need to thank you for saying that, Arch. I need to get you guys. There we go. The chat should be. Come on, man. Hold on. Let me share screen, live chat. Is it gonna do it? I might have just messed this whole thing up. I tell you, the software I use has been messing up. I don't know if Ryan's still here. I know he uses StreamYard, but I've been having a lot of issues with StreamYard over the last, probably 2 or 3 months. Shinobi says your videos are always fun and informative. Thanks, pal. Appreciate that. That said, let's do a breakaway segment. We haven't got to do a solo show in a while. Hopefully this thing does bring back up our chat, but even if it doesn't, we're gonna keep rolling with this fat face right here, right? Let's do a quick breakaway segment. Tonight's bear with me. Tonight's question for you. All right, tonight's question for you guys. See, I can't see what you guys are seeing. That's another problem with this software that I've been having. But anyway, what is one thing about your HVAC system that you found out about after you had the system installed? So there's something about your HVAC system that you now know, but you did not know it when you paid for it, when you bought it, or when you moved into the house, right? Something cool, something different, something that you wish the contractor, or it could be bad, right? You wish the contractor had told you about your system, maybe the thermostat or the way the system operates, or maybe the location of your air filters, maybe the location of the system itself. What's something about your HVAC system that you wish you would have known, or that not even that you wish you'd have known, that you found out after you actually paid for it, that you think that they should have told you up front? Let me know what your thoughts are on that down in the comment section. I'm going to continue to try to get the chat back up here. I do not understand why this has been a problem. StreamYard asks me at the end of our streams what my thoughts are, like, did it go well? And I'm going to start hitting no, because it's not going well if I can't pull up the screens that I want to pull up, right? Not good. No bueno. Share screen. No, see, it's not working. So yeah, let me know in the comments section. Arch says, I found out that the line set for the 2-ton Linux mini split were shorter than I thought, and the condenser had to be mounted higher up on the wall. Interesting. So that's something they should have seen beforehand, right, Arch? We are, my wife is getting some work done in our house, and they came to her the other day and they said, hey, listen, we're gonna have to do a change order. We're gonna have to up our price on something because this is gonna involve a little extra work here. And I happened to be home, and I said, no, 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 wait a minute. I'm very fair. If you're fair, I'm fair. But you're not being fair here. You should have seen that before you quoted, when you quoted this job, this should have been a part of that. You're now you're taking our money, and now you've already started the job, you've already cut some walls open, and now you're going to turn around and say, hey, we need to add this, this, and this. Well, that's you should have seen that stuff from the get-go. Um, and so I had a big problem with that. I wish they had mentioned that to me before, and I would have paid them extra so they could have installed it with a longer line set and mounted it closer to the ground. So, yeah, um, very discouraged by the software not bringing up the screen that I wanted to bring up. Hold on one second, guys. I'm going to actually remove me, and you won't hear me, so bear with me. Hey, hey, hey. I hope I got that straight. I'm so sorry, guys. I tell you, I think I just learned something tonight. I just added, and those of you that stuck around, thank you so much. Big heart to you guys right there. I've had issues before and lost everyone. So thank you for hanging around and not giving up on me. But yeah, I just ordered new internet service because of the issues that I've been having. I went ahead and switched to Starlink, and I'm hoping we're going to like it. I don't know, but I just learned tonight that maybe my issues are not the internet. Maybe the issues I've been having are actually with the software I'm using. And I don't know for sure, but while you guys were waiting, I couldn't get back into the website. I could go to I could go to 100 other websites, and I intentionally went to websites that, like, there's no reason there would be cookies on my computer to be able to pull it up or anything like that. And like, went to like a couple news websites that I never go to, just to see if they were pulling up and populating, like, like within a second. And so, anyway, just definitely frustrating, concerning on that front. So let's go back. Let me see if I can get my chat going now. So that'll be the real telltale sign if I can bring that back up. Boom, boom, boom. Live chat and boom. Finally. Oh. Arch says I'm still here. Thanks, Arch. I appreciate you sticking around, man. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating trying to get these things figured out. Of course, I do live. I know there's other guys that they'll broadcast live, but they'll go ahead and record at least parts of their show. And I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to be able to take questions live. So I'd rather have some mistakes, as long as y'all can, be patient with me on that. And then instead just, be able to interact with you live. So let's see. My understanding is that all heads receive refrigerant, and then you can control what temp and fan. So dry mode is slower fan and more refrigerant at that head. Is there a reason why you don't just get it and forget it? So I'm trying to figure out what you guys are talking about. Um, oh, here we go. Found with my Mitsubishi split system, you cannot run cool and fan on another air handler at the same time. However, you can run dry and cool at the same time. Curious if it's the same on Daikin. I've never heard of that, Gary. When we would do multi-zone systems, I was always under the assumption that they could, or that they needed to be in the same mode to operate. So I bet, and I could be wrong, but I bet that you think that system's actually running in dry, but they're actually both running in cool. Like Tech Junkie said, it'll just slow down the fan and dehumidify a little better, but um you're not getting that circulation function. I'm not sure on that, but most multi-zone systems that I've laid hands on, they all have to be in the same mode. Usually that's always been my experience. So interesting topic there. Let's see. I've got another cool. Let me pull up my worksheet that I use. Bear with me. I had to I had to redo everything. I deleted all my cookies, your browsing or whatever, and then I restarted my computer to be able to get this thing to start working again. But because of that, not all my pages that were up when we started are no longer up. But let me see if this is the link that I think it is. Bear with me. Of course, now I've got to. I was going to do crazy clip as our next. Check your Facebook. Bear with me, guys. I've got a crazy clip I want to show you guys if I can get it to work. Come on. You're logged in. Is it going to work here? Is this the one? Yes, this is the video. All right, it's a little loud, so you might want to turn down your volume if you're listening to me right now. So you might want to turn it down just a little bit. But check out, and I'll play the clip again. So if you need to adjust your volume, but check this clip out. This is I found this clip this past week online, and I thought it was pretty funny. So let me bounce over, bounce back, share here. That compressor was running the opposite of smooth. She she has seen better days or heard better days. Oh man. Let's see. Let's go back to our chat. Appreciate you guys, man. This has been a fun night aside from the hiccup there. Um Again, I don't get to do the solo shows as much. I don't get to take your questions live. It's been a lively chatting back and forth. Um and like I say, make sure you're subscribed to the new channel so that way you can continue to take part in all this once we get everything moved over there. So HVAC God Live Show is the name of the new channel. And I'm going to put a link to that again, as Shinobi mentioned. So that way we can make sure that everyone has gotten subscribed to that. But there we go. Let's see. Get back to your chat. Let's see. Installing a Mitsubishi City right now. I first of all, I'm not familiar with that product. Mitsubishi's come out with a few things since we were a Mitsubishi dealer. Um, but over $1 million job, highly technical. Um, I sometimes wonder, you know, I was working on a system today. So crazy story for you. Today I went to teach a class. And the class was going to be on certain HVAC tools and how to use them properly. So I get to the classroom, and the classroom here's a whole classroom full of heating and air guys that the air conditioning stops working. And what was crazy is I didn't have my tools. So it's really humbling to I feel pretty confident I can usually get it fixed. I'm not going to say that, 100%, you know, that there's nothing that could stump me out there, but it's usually pretty rare. It's going to have to be a pretty crazy technical board or something, and I've got some pretty smart people I can call as well, right? But anyway, so there we are, and I have no tools, and it's pretty humbling to be like, well, I don't know what to do to get this thing fixed without at least so I had to run across to this other building to grab at least a screwdriver to get the cover off of this thing. And make a long story short, we ended up getting it fixed. But as I was working on it, I just this was a little bit more complicated system, and I remember thinking to myself, at what point, you know, we're already seeing a labor shortage here, and we're starting to see technology really jump, and we're seeing AI, and we're seeing all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And then this labor shortage, at what point do we say, wait a second, let's bring this back down a little bit until this labor can kind of catch up a little bit before we start dumping um more complicated things out there in the industry. I don't know. It's just something, a thought that I had. I wonder if that's something you've ever thought of, Tech Junkie, when you are getting those really complicated high-end type systems, technical. It was the word you used, technical systems installed. Shinobi says seems like the fan would be neutral. Um some systems just simply will not operate at all. Like they'll just shut down. When you got a multi-zone system like that and they're in different modes, they just simply won't work at all. Let's see. I've never heard anything like that out of a compressor. Yeah, maybe maybe there was something in there that shouldn't have been, right? Sounds like some kind of sci-fi vocoder. Vocoder? Am I saying that right? Probably not. Usually set and forget and sometimes blah blah blah. Tech Junkie says just going through y'all's conversation back and forth. Wow, that sounds like an extensive system. Each condenser is 10 tons. Yeah, so most homes are, going to be 2 to 5 tons, unless they have multiple systems, So that's a city is a multi-headed system with one or two condensers, but there is a distribution box. So it's probably like some of the other products they have, but just on steroids, you know. Um, if it's got a distribution box, then it probably doesn't have those RefNet Ys that a lot of the VRF systems have or VRV systems have. But that's still pretty cool. At least I'm assuming. I again, I'm not as familiar with that. But yeah. Um, again, next week we're going to have a really cool guest. Um, let me pull up his bio. Because I don't want to get his title wrong. Bear with me here. Um, is he the president? His name is Kevin Hart, and the company he's with is Haven IAQ. You can look them up. They've got that unit that can monitor the air, as I was saying earlier, and he's got an interesting perspective on a lot of the indoor air quality stuff in our industry. So I'm not sure exactly what his title is there. I don't know if he's the president, the founder, or you know, maybe he's the janitor. I don't think he's the janitor, but founder and CEO. That's his title. Okay, so he's the founder and CEO of Haven IEQ, and they do a lot of cool things over there. And it'd be interesting to have him on our show next week. So make sure you're here next week for that. Of course, Ryan Hughes is going to be on our Hughes Man HVAC is going to be on our show the week after that. So we've got some pretty cool guests coming up. We're right in the season. We're right in the heat. The Game of Thrones would always say winter is coming. I always say summer is coming, and summer is here. So we're in the thick of it. We're in the heat of it, if you will. And got some pretty cool guests coming as well. I've got a couple other guests that I've not been able to nail them down yet, but we also have some really cool folks in the future. So again, if you haven't subscribed to the new channel, make sure you do that. I will drop that channel's of course now I'm not seeing it. That channel's address in the chat one last time here tonight. That said, we are going to probably wrap up. If you have any questions you want to end the show with, please drop those in the chat and we will end the show with answering those last few questions. That said, if you know any good heating and air, plumbing, or electrical companies out there, we all know there's some bad apples in our industry and we don't highlight the good ones enough. So if you know a good apple, where they're located, please share them in the chat. That's one of the things that I've been doing. I like doing. If you guys are on board with it, I think it's important to do, to highlight, give some love to the good ones. And, you never know. Somebody might actually see your message in your area and send some bit more than love. You'll actually be able to send those good ones some business, send them their way. So Shinobi One says Griffith Home Solutions in Grand Junction, Colorado rocks. Wonder if there are any kin to Andy Griffith. Arch says, have a good evening. You too, pal. Gary says, fun evening, Josh. Friends as always. Until next week with guests. Have a very good evening, all. Have a great night. And so Emery says, I didn't get answers from you, but how do you size AC line set? So we don't size them. The manufacturers will typically say if it's going to be a certain length, maybe some bends, things like that, they will tell us what size those line sets need to be. So typically they're going to say it needs to be this size, but if you get above a certain length, you need to go to this size kind of deal. Outside of that, line set sizing is not as drawn out or even complicated as say doing proper manual J, manual D, or manual S calculations. Anas, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, says, what will happen if I open gas without vacuuming the lines? You ultimately will kill the system prematurely. And what I mean by that is you won't kill it right away. It will work for a little while, but when you have things like moisture that will turn the oils acidic, they will eat the system from inside out. So you've got to get that, pull a good vacuum and get the moisture out. But then you'll also have things like non-condensables in there, so the compressor can't run, it won't be as efficient, and so on. I have physically seen guys in our trade who would do things like, especially like on a mini split, they would open one, it would push that refrigerant in one side, then they would open their hose on the other side and purge all that air out. And so their thought was, well, I'm pushing the refrigerant's pushing all that ambient air out, and so I shouldn't have to pull a vacuum. Obviously that is not the case. So we need to make sure you're pulling a good vacuum, pulling it down, whatever the manufacturer's specs are on what that micron, what you need to pull it down to, so that way you're getting all that stuff out of there. Arch says, Andy from Mayberry. Yes. If so, give Barney an open my regards. PVE oil or polyvinyl ether. Yeah, so POE oil is what I see mostly used in these newer systems, but there are, times where you're going to, there's still systems out there that have, mineral oil. And the thing about mineral oil back, especially when we had R22, it wasn't as, it did not become acidic when it, so I'll hear folks say to me all the time, well, Josh, I never had to worry about this before. I've been doing this for years. I've been brazing without nitrogen for years. Well, you didn't have TXVs back then. You had the pistons, right? A piston you could pop out and clean out if you needed to. Oh, well, Josh, we didn't have to pull a good vacuum back then. We just kind of push the refrigerant through. It wasn't that big of a deal. And the systems would last 20 years. Well, yeah, but you had mineral oil, so it's a little different. Tech Junkie says most mini splits have PVE. Arch says Opie. I grew up watching Andy Griffith. That's why there's no liquid line dryer. Anyway, I think we'll end on that. Again, if you've got any good companies out there, feel free to drop them in the last few seconds here in the chat. That said, again, we'll have a great guest next week. I'm I'm ready to get some cool guests on here. It's I enjoy the live show. I mean the solo shows, as we get to converse a little bit more, and I appreciate you guys being on here. Again, make sure you are subscribed to the new channel, HVAC God Live Show. Everything's going to get me moved over there at some point. When I don't have a timeline on it yet, but it is coming. It is coming. That said, have a great night. We'll be here next week, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. In the meantime, make it a great week. We'll see you then.